Aloha! I'm like pumped up right now uh, because I had been waiting to make this video for a while, and I wanted to do it right because it makes you got to do it right. You always, it has to be felt. You can't just think of something and then whatever start going with it. But it reaches like a certain point of expansion, and then you can share it. This is my process. So um, backstory on Sedona for me. Um, well, for people who don't know about Sedona, Sedona is this beautiful city in north central-ish, northwestern probably, Arizona, about 3.5 hours south of, about 3 hours south of the Grand Canyon. And the history of Sedona is an intense. It all kind of like circles around like a vortex of energy, intense energy that you can feel. So the rocks around there, that's what it's mainly known for, the red rocks of Sedona. So there's a high iron content in the rocks, and there's like crystal coming out of the ground. Like it's a very intense place, and not only the people of today have been picking up on this energy, but the indigenous people have been picking up on this energy since before they got kicked out of there, literally moved out of there by the U.S. government back when they were still taking people and moving people on off the lands and moving them onto reservations or concentration camps, happy concentration camps. They were selling them as. But even before that, the natives knew that they didn't really live there. They didn't really stay there. And from me living there, it was mostly how I interpret it is that it's I've always said Sedona was a training base. It was a training location for you to go and activate yourself, feel a connection to the land through like a deep root system, and you can see the reality of that with just the basic geography of the Grand Canyon and the energy of the Grand Canyon, and being so close to that vortex or that vortex, and how it's just like an open space that allows an individual to go in and tap into very rich, very direct signals from the central energies of the planet, which are instantaneously shot out to like the central sun and all kinds of. It's a very like rich and deep energy to interpret, and I needed some time because there's also some very other kind of stories that go along with Sedona. I mean, when reasons why the natives didn't live there, like specifically, I didn't want to go into all this other stuff, but because that's like I'm not like a historian of Sedona. I just lived there for a year and a half, and go back and forth, and that's really my thing. I'll just go and visit my friends and family there, and then kind of get like a little booster charge of energy from the land, and then when it's time to go, it's time to go. And that's another kind of like undertone of Sedona, is from people who do live there. The whole the whole storyline behind that is people who go to Sedona and they have like they're open to the space of staying there. They're either held onto by the land or they're kicked out immediately, or some kind of like a group, some kind of a time frame to where you can see that it's pretty much time to go. So either you're gonna stay for a certain amount of time, or you're gonna leave, or get pumped up to get ready to leave. Anyway, so all these little storylines that go along with Sedona, and people go there from all over the world. Lots of tourists come in and they interact in that space, and you see people walking on the trails, and I did it. Yeah, it was you can directly link into the land there, and there's a lot of that. Okay, so that's where I want to start on the main thing about the video. I gotta slow down for a second. The magic part of Sedona. So, in the magic of Sedona, it's not just Sedona. You have Sedona, you have Cottonwood, you have the Grand Canyon, you have Phoenix, that's 2 hours south, 2.5 hours, or 2 hours south of Sedona. Like all these energies like that exist, surrounding this location. And the ongoing atmosphere of Sedona is this happy-go-lucky sort of love and light feel. But I'm not here to talk about that right now. I am not going to talk about that, because everybody knows that and it's beautiful and all this other stuff. But there's some other things that need to be spoken about that aren't spoken about. And me just realizing this stuff now, to a level of expansion to where I can share it from actually being in that space and getting out of that space. My perspective is it exists. So take it or leave it for what it is. But I want to focus on the balance of all the love and light that is there, because there's some things that people don't talk about that maintains the energies that exist there. And I'll start from expanding all the way out into the nation. So nationally, like in the United States, Sedona is probably the most recognized and well-known spiritual location, so-called spiritual location, in the country. And when you get in there, like I'm a brown individual. That's what people see me as when I walk around Sedona, because Sedona is basically the majority is white people. And there is a very definite undertone of feeling there that is straight up racist, straight up separating, straight up skull and bones shit that if you look closer, you can see what else is there. And I'll break it down even more so, just to the numbers. When you have magic, such as natural magic as Sedona, and you have people that go there who are just opening up themselves on a spiritual plane. You have connections with extraterrestrials, you have psychic a lot of psychics there. You have crystal energies. You have philosophers. You have pretty much every type of so-called spiritual individual on the commercial version of spirituality, but it's not really at all connected to the ancient indigenous and the African connections of spirituality. It's saying that it has connections to Egypt and all of these other things through sacred geometry and all this other stuff. Whatever kind of little things that they sell in the stores and here and there. But this is where I wanted to go into the magic part of this. The magic is knowing that this place is rich with a natural spiritual energy. I don't want to say use the word real, but the active space there is money. Money is the driving force in Sedona. And when you integrate money with spirituality and open beings, you open up a space in these individuals that is not necessarily love and light. Because you can tell them, hey, open up your heart to love and light. You can be all this other stuff. But what happens when that intent is not even known to itself? The individuals, the so-called healers, they are not even known to themselves how deeply they go, because the magic that gets integrated into the money world and all this other stuff. And you can say, oh yeah, it's the intent's not there because people are using money for this and that. No, magic is magic. Magic exists. Open people exist. Vessels exist. Energy exists. Separation exists, and that's the main point I wanted to touch on now. The separation that exists in specifically Sedona is obvious when you see the blatant racism. And I experienced this firsthand. This is why I really wanted to make this video. I experienced this racism. I experienced this separation. I experienced these cliques that are out there that get all cliquey and start to stick together and outwardly sell themselves as doing a certain thing, but act a different way once it's behind closed doors. And that magic, it doesn't matter what you do on the outside for whatever or whoever. You might be helping and healing people, but if you go behind your doors, you have that intent activated in your space. You have that energy in that world that is not, it's not cool. And when it gets into that not cool space and you start opening up to the so-called extraterrestrial world, you're playing with demons. And it's hidden under the space of angels. A lot of the time, there's a lot of angels out there posing, or demons out there posing as angels, whether they know it or not. And when you have young individuals that go to these, they're drawn, the land like draws people out there. And when they get manipulated into thinking, investing their energy into an idea or a space, then that's when it starts to get into like a harvest mode. And I realized it. I woke up this morning realizing, like, what's the most, like Sedona is like the most so-called spiritual place in this country, and that balance there, knowing it is straight up money driven. It has no connection to the black and brown peoples of this planet, and it's straight up desecrating the land by not even recognizing the indigenous people there. I interacted with all these politicians and all this stuff out there when they showed up at a place I was at when I was out there. You can see the separation there, and that separation creates voids, it creates gaps, it creates openings. And these things don't get spoken about because people need to make money, and people also need to make energy followers or energy nodes or whatever. And yes, people are getting healed. Yes, things are happening that are on an open space that is good for some people. But what's happening behind the scenes? What's happening behind the scenes? That's what I'm talking about. Because there is no connection actively from Sedona to Africa. There is no with the people that are walking around there today. That's the main thing I wanted to talk to, and all the other people who are on this planet who are suffering and going through all this other stuff. And I want to end it right here because I'm gonna make another video, and I want to keep going into the separation. We're gonna calm down for a moment too, and start over with a more focused intent on my own personal experience here. So this is part 1, and until next time, peace, love, and harmony.